Death comes for us all in the end. But in Vampire Survivors, you can tell Death to kick rocks and murk that loser. Then, Death 2 shows up and kills you for good. Depending on how many revives you have, Death 2 might kill you several times in quick succession. But at least Death 1 can keep you company on your River Styx ferry ride. The strategy to beat Death is reasonably simple, provided you have the right unlocks to do so. You need the Laurel and the Lancet. You also need to have unlocked the Yellow Sign, granting you access to the arrows and the rings. The arrows have fancier names that I'm not particularly inclined to try and pronounce. The same with the rings. Silver? See? No human tongue could possibly utter this indiscernible configuration of syllables. The final unlock that makes this task infinitely easier is the Mad Groove. It's unlocked after reaching minute 31 in the Mad Forest. With this arcana, every 2 minutes, all of the items on the stage will move to your position. This makes getting the rings and the arrows significantly easier as you don't have to run around the whole map to get them. With the prerequisite unlocks at your disposal, you are off to curb stomp Death. You can do this with any of the classes, but for this run, I chose Imelda. Her starting weapon is exceptionally mediocre, but the bonus experience is quite nice, as you will have to level a significant amount of items, and every bit of experience helps. The stage is equally irrelevant as the choice of character. I chose Gallow Tower because I like its simplicity, all uppy-downy with very few obstacles. While stage and character selection are mostly irrelevant, you do have to make it to the end. So choose a stage and character that can facilitate that goal. The axe is an upper medium tier weapon. It does a fair bit of damage, and when it's upgraded, it serves to thin out the horde of enemies advancing towards you with its radiating, penetrating scythes. Sustain items are decently important to survive any run of Vampire Survivors, and the Silver Wind is one of the nicer options. It has a chance to heal you when it hits an enemy, meaning that you don't have to scrounge around for all those floor chickens. The Mad Groove is nice not only because it summons your arrows and rings right to you, but also because it neatly collects all of the experience on the ground into a cool little circle. Just be careful when picking up the XP on the top of the circle, because you don't want to grab the arrows or the rings early in the run. The Clock Lancet is an integral item in this endeavor. It's pretty trash throughout the run, as its freeze effect is mediocre at best, but it is necessary to slay Death. The cat is one of the only items in Vampire Survivors that is actually bad. If there is nothing of note in any given shop, it would behoove you to banish this impotent feline. Early chests are a matter of personal preference. Sometimes it is good to open them before they can evolve an item at 10 minutes, and sometimes it's best to save them for later when you really need the upgrade. Personally, I'm of the opinion that there will always be more chests, and you can't open the chest that you were saving for later if you are dead. As mentioned earlier, sustain is important if you don't want to die. I've been at half health for the last several minutes, and the red heart is a pretty decent source of health regen. It also combines with silver wind to evolve it, which is nice. The laurel is another essential item that you need to kill death, so always grab it when you see it. This leaf is slightly more useful than the lancet, but only marginally so. It provides you with a nice shield every so often, which helps with the amelioration of damage but has very little offensive utility. With this amount of enemies and my amount of damage, corner cuckoldry is almost unavoidable. But, thanks to my sustain items, I can just walk around the fringes of the mob with very little fear of actually dying. The pentagram is almost always a trap. While it may seem tempting to clear a screen of enemies, it is almost always more useful to have their experience. In contrast, the crown is a top tier pickup. Extra experience is always great, and for this run, we're going to need it. That being said, just get the shiny pony hat and disregard the starred circle. The vacuum is always nice, even with the Mad Grow corralling all of your experience. It's just so satisfying to get several sequential levels, particularly when you are close to upgrading one of your weapons. Sometimes, when you have all of the items that you need, it is better just to fill out the weapons bar and not get offerings that you don't want. It's not advisable to do this with any weapon, but if you find yourself at 5 weapon slots and something comes along that tickles your fancy, it might not be the worst idea to just grab it and start stacking upgrades. This is particularly relevant when you're trying to kill death, as towards the end of the run you will need a lot of upgrades in not a lot of time. So, it is a good idea just to flesh out your inventory early and save the upgrades for when they matter more. Other than Mad Groove, I find most of the Arcanas to be a bit underwhelming. I would almost always rather have just another item, but the revives are fine, I guess. This is not the opportune time to grab the arrow. I'm just dumb and stepped on it early. Luckily, it's the one that helps me and not the enemies. It's not the biggest of deals, but it does mean that I will have to deal with this cloaked loser for a bit. He dishes out a pretty significant amount of damage, but you can also just avoid him pretty easily. Eventually he dies, but it can take a while. Regardless of the presence of Mr. Cloaky, I get my final slot filled and now everything revolves around upgrading and evolving my items. All I am doing is leveling my existing items before I grab the last arrow and the 2 rings. I'm trying to avoid any chest I see so they can be used to upgrade the lancet and the laurel, but mostly I'm just grinding experience. Bonus chests are always nice. And with most of my items already upgraded, it really just fills out the remaining slots. I check where I am shortly after opening the chest to see if it's reasonable to get the items that I need and start leveling them. I feel confident that I should start leveling the items that I have on the floor and begin to scoop them up. The rings upgrade the lancet and the arrows upgrade the laurel. Both the rings and the arrows need to be at their maximum level of 9 before they can upgrade their respective items. For each set, one will hurt you by increasing enemy stats and frequency, and one will help you by increasing the sustain on the arrow and damaging attributes on the ring. When you pick them up, more Mr. Cloakies will show up, so be prepared to ignore them from a reasonably safe distance. With these items in tow, it is back to the level grind. Try and leave the chest until you're sure that you will have at least 2 remaining once you are fully stacked. 1 to upgrade the laurel, and 1 to upgrade the lancet. Easier said than done when there are so many enemies that you can't see the chests until you walk on them. As you may have noticed, I am almost dead. Even with everything basically upgraded, the enemy buffs aren't something to scoff at. This is why sustain is so important. Because if you had to scrounge for some floor chickens in this cacophony of flesh, you would be hard pressed to do so. It might be common sense, but when you are on the last leg of this run, upgrade the items that help you before you upgrade the items that help your enemy. You know, so you don't die. Corner cuckoldry abounds as the giant robots show up. As the game is drawing to a close, I'm not entirely sure that I will gain enough levels to upgrade what I need to upgrade. So I start grabbing some of the chests that I've been saving. I just need 2 to do the upgrade, and hopefully some of the surplus boxes will be sufficient to get me to where I need to be. I am also half dead when I decide on this course of action. I would very much like to upgrade the laurel so I don't have to worry about taking any more damage. Another Arcana. Wonderful. I guess freeze is fine. Ah, sweet relief. Once you have the cloak, you are more or less invulnerable. It caps incoming damage at 10, a number which is easily recouped by my sustain items. Once you have this item, the rest of the run is a cakewalk. Chests abound as I scurry about, attempting to level the last ring so I can upgrade the lancet. There's not that much time left, and if I want to kill death, I need this upgrade for its damage. With the suctiony aid of the vacuum, I hoover up the last experience I need, upgrading the final ring all the way and grabbing the chest to evolve the Lancet. The upgraded item is called the Infinite Corridor. Every time it procs, it halves all enemies' health. Death has a very substantial health pool, and this item chews through it like no other, making it actually possible to kill him in a reasonable amount of time. I also get a box, which gives me another weapon or something. But I'm so stacked at this point that I don't even really care. I take this cool looking katana because I am, in fact, the worst. At 30 minutes, Death shows up and starts trying to kill me. Thanks to my cloak, he can only do 10 damage at a time to me, while I am halving his health with every proc of my corridor. As this battle is waging, there are so many things on screen that I absent-mindedly walk over a bracer. Projectile speed increase, you say? Fascinating. After about a minute, Death falls, and I'm treated to this animation and the sound of several gongs, each ringing once, or one gong ringing several times. There's no way of knowing which it is. After the gong or gongs do their thing and the screen is sufficiently zoomed, Death 2 shows up and kills me. Repeatedly. Once Death 2 has killed me for the final time, the game is over and the stage is completed. After you do this for the first time, you'll unlock the Mask of the Red Death character. Quaff the player nevermore. He is very good, and I consider using him basically cheating, so I never use him. But hey, if you have less scruples about such things than me, go hog wild with your new busted character.